Africa in Nairobi's current Monday evening, with 6 contestants grouped into 1 and 2 or entire 1 and 2 participating. Nancy Modime of Usawa kwa Wote, Safina Party's Herman Griwell, Kenneth Nyamwamu of the United Progressive Alliance, and Esther Thairu, who was going it independent, took to the stage at 5:30 for the debate that ended at 19 hours, paving way for the second slot of Igathe Polycarp of Jubilee Party, as well as Johnson Sakaja of United Democratic Alliance, whose approval ratings exceed the 5% threshold for the first tier debate at exactly 20 hours. Now, 3 candidates, including Agnes Kagure, failed to show up for the debate that saw all candidates tasked to submit their agenda for the Nairobians. Sakaja silenced Igathe's reservations, that is on his education credential, after a late arrival, as Igathe Jubilee Party's candidate in the City Hall race had anchored his remarks, or his opening remarks, otherwise ironical to Sakaja's credentials, saying that Igathe, was a product of public education in the country. This and much more is what we'll be looking at on the State of the Nation this morning. As well, later on, we'll be talking matters road safety. At this very point, when we have lots of accidents happening, we ask ourselves, have we loosened the guard? As we get to this conversation, remember that you should be part and parcel of it. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela at TV47KE. As well, you're reminded to be careful as you're using the roads. Also later, we'll be talking matters health, that is on dental health. So make sure that you keep it right here as we kickstart the broadcast. It's always good having you. This is Morning Cafe, and my name is Linda Lela. It's typically Tuesday, but a typical Monday for us because yesterday was a holiday, and here we are from this time of politics, heated debates. It's important that we are engaged. Remember, it's barely like 27 days to the general election, and we're looking forward to see what we have set as a country as to this. We have the Daily Nations, and we have the Standard newspaper, as well as the People Daily. These are the papers that we'll be looking at this morning as we take a look at what is in store for us, and later on engaging the gentlemen that will be joining me for this conversation as we unpack what played out on the gubernatorial race that is yesterday. That is the presidential debate. Under this presidential debate, yes, the inaugural gubernatorial position. And so we'll be looking at this as we continue with the broadcast. But first, let's briefly look at what the papers detail this morning. We have the Daily Nation, like I have said, and here it is. We're trying to get a whole soft copy of the same. Fine. Well, let's look at what the hard copies have this morning. More or less the same thing. We see what the front page speaks of, definitely about what played out yesterday as to that gubernatorial debate. They call it fireworks as Sakaja Igathe city face off. That is, at the level where candidates defend their plans for Nairobi in Ferry. First debate, and that's one of the things that we'll be looking at, is clamor to rule Nairobi from that tough terrain or tough reign of Mike Sonko to the NMS to Ann Kananu, and not so much has been happening in the city that would make it, retain its glory. And so there's that need to get the right leader who's going to come in next, that is in the next dispensation, so that we get it right as the city. And all this, we have 9 candidates that have been cleared by the IEBC, and for this showdown that played out yesterday at the Catholic University, only 6 managed to show up, 3 did not show up, offering various reasons as to why they did not. But all the same, it played out, and we'll be unpacking that just to see how well prepared these candidates are to take up the city. Away from it, the polls are out. That is the TIFA poll, and they say that Raila leads as Ruto narrows the gap. We're talking about 39% for Deputy President William Ruto and 42% for Right Honorable Raila Odinga, according to this. The Wajakoya has scored 4%. The undecided seated around 10%, and 5% did not respond. Popularity polling, this as captured on page 4. Many have faulted the polls as, those ones that we do not want to depend on, because they say a majority of them really are compromised. But then again, we'll be looking at this as we try to unpack so much more as to what is happening in the country politically as well. 27 days of President Uhuru Kenyatta on the cross, whether it's on the cross or not, well, is one thing that we watch. He says he's still here, and therefore he's going to deal with the cartels up to the very last day. Several government officials and state agencies are embroiled in squabbles over the exercise of powers as President Uhuru Kenyatta's term or tenure comes to an end. And so we'll be looking at this trouble that, is playing out at the level of government, but most importantly, his reign. This is the very last month that he sits in that very office as we await to see the changes or the transition process that will play out, culminating from that, general election that will be conducted on the 9th of August. Uhuru names 142 to head boards of state corporations. And although with the law, the timing of the appointments so close to the end of his tenure raises eyebrows. And of course, appointments are contained in the latest Kenya Gazette published on July the 8th. Well, this as well as pertaining to his last days in office. And we'll be looking forward to see what plays out as pertaining to that and how pundits then will unpack this one. On matters education, Magoha says, "Don't embarrass me." Magoha tells schools heads as term at ministry comes to an end. And there's been a lot of hula baloo when it comes to the question of education in the country. Lots of adjustments that we've witnessed on this very reign, where we're also we're taking a look at how the inception of the competency-based curriculum is working. So much that is playing out. We look to see just how he is going to end his tenure, what glory he leaves behind, what unturned stones he'll be leaving behind, what discrepancies that would be otherwise addressed. Away from it to the Standard newspaper, neck and neck race opinion poll shows, latest survey shows leading candidates are gaining popularity in each other's strongholds, with Raila eating into Ruto's Mount Kenya base and the deputy president slicing Odinga's lead in Nyanza and Western. Survey also shows that undecided voters are finally settling for their preferred candidates, as captured on page 6 and 7. This is according to Tifa Poll. We'll be unpacking that as we continue with the broadcast. On this other side, Sakaja Igade face off at the Nairobi debate. The validity of UDA candidate, that is Johnson Sakaja's academic papers, took center stage as Jubilee's Polycarp Igade used the matter to question the senator's integrity. This is captured on page 11, and we'll be looking at that as we continue, just reminding ourselves of the former boss of Nairobi County and how his troubles continue to bedevil him, but more or less like a reprieve. Top court grants Sonko lifeline in governor race. A story captured on page 4 as he seeks to take the gubernatorial position of Mombasa County, having been impeached in Nairobi. This ghost will definitely follow him, but we wait to see what will play out eventually. That gazettement of the candidates that played out, of course, did not see his name, as well as that one of Karungu Agadhangwa, but the likes of Sakaja were lucky enough to find their names on the list. And Safaricom remains top brand. This in a review of how brands have performed in terms of business, and we'll be looking at that as we continue. As well as leaked files expose Uber links or Uber secret links. A taxi hailing firm has set aside a budget of about $90 million yearly to influence perceptions of powerful leaders across the world. That is to accept its unconventional way of doing business. This is a story captured on page 33. Certainly revelations that you'd want to understand some more on, and of course so much more that has been captured on the papers this morning we'll be looking at as we continue with the broadcast. Let's now pick some of the stories that have been prepared by my team. I can see there's nothing much that is happening on the roads that would really require our attention, and therefore I won't focus much on it, in as much as it's a cold morning. Really not much of alarm. But then again, it looks like it's ugly on some bits of the roads in Nairobi. As you can evidently see, this is around the Eastlands area, Kamukunji, around the Landis area. It is all heavy, and therefore you'd expect so much of delay if you're taking these directions. This is around the City Square, the Nairobi Expressway as well. You can clearly tell there's cause for alarm, especially around these areas of Bama Market, around these areas of Jogoo Road. And so if taking such directions, you'd expect to have a delay this morning. This also on this side, this is Expressway, and down to this sides of Bunyala Road, and where there's Carrefour around the Nyayo National Stadium. A bit of traffic that would get you delay this morning, evidently because of the rains perhaps, and also more or less like, it appears like it's a Monday. Most of the people were not working yesterday, and also we are having our students going back to school, and so you definitely would expect such. This is around the Lusaka area as you get to connect to Langata Road. Langata Road is clean this morning, so there's no cause of alarm if you're taking Langata Road this morning, as you can evidently see. On the other side, let's see whether there's anything that would get us a bit worried on the roads this morning. This is Mombasa Road, down to around Capital Center is where you'd find some tenets of traffic, but it doesn't look all bad going all the way down to these sides of Samia National Park, Imara Daima, and all the way. Yes, tenets of traffic, but it's not all bad, as you can see. And down to the Southern Bypass, it's also not looking bad this morning. The Southern Bypass, as always, is clean, no cause for alarm. And taking us to these other sides of the Eastern Bypass, let's see whether the Eastern Bypass is alarming this morning. The Eastern Bypass is as clean as you can see on this sides of Kangundu Road all the way down, no cause for alarm. Let's look at the other roads and see whether we might need to be careful as we're using any of them. This is Thika Road, and Thika Road is not bad. Apart from these areas of Riru, there's some tenets of traffic. Today we've gone all the way down, and coming to this side, Githurai, not looking bad. Around Garden City Mall, you find tenets of traffic as you find your way into the city and down to these areas of Muthaiga and to Pangani area. Yes, there's a bit of traffic that would get you a little bit delayed, but not looking so bad. The ABC place on this side as you get to Wayakiwe is not looking so bad this morning, and therefore no cause for alarm. Parklands and Westlands area where we are, not so much of alarm on the roads this morning, and so in case of anything, I'll be here to keep you up to tabs. But as it is not so bad apart from these areas of Eastland or these areas of Jogoo Road. And so let's shelve that one for a moment as we take a look at the stories of the day. And one family in Nandi County is seeking justice after their 13-year-old daughter was sexually assaulted in two separate incidents last year and this year by a member of their clan. That is, of the girl's mother has explained that despite reporting the case to the police, no action has been taken, adding that some administrative officials want the case to be settled at home. On the other hand, the county's human rights leader Simon Nyoros has condemned the act and issued a 3-day arrest warrant for the suspect. Otherwise, they will stage a protest to force the police to take action.
Niko na huzuni sana kwa moyo wangu. Mtoto amefanyiwa, vijana wame na jinsi mtoto yangu ya miaka 13. Huyo mtoto ni mdogo sana, hata ukiona utastuka. Nimeenda hospitali, chief akanifuata, akasema tumaliza hii maneno kinyumbani, tufinye hii maneno asiende mbali, tukanyakie chini hii maneno. Nikasema hata ingawa sina uwezo yote, wacha tuende kwa sheria.
Kwa hivyo sisi tukiwa wanaharakati wa human rights tunapenda kuuliza, where will the vulnerable go to? Where will they go to for assistance? And we are calling upon the government of Kenya, Matiangi's office, the Inspector General's office, the DPP's office, to wake up and tell these people to arrest these guys.
Well, we hope that justice then is found on that. Early marriages, HIV and gender-based violence have been cited as the biggest challenges facing Kenya's population. And according to the National Council for Population and Development, there is need to strengthen county committees involved in gender-based violence, HIV and early marriages among teenagers if the war against the triple threats is to be won in the country. Now, speaking during the World Population Day celebrations, Northeastern NCPD coordinator, that is Moses Ouma, said threats are real and need to be tackled head on. In Garissa, 10% of teenagers between 15 and 19 years are either pregnant or have already gotten their first child, and this has been attributed to regressive cultural practices and illiteracy.
Discrimination, because it is also common. So this has been a very important day. It's a day to observe also human rights, to ensure that there is equity and equality, that we don't discriminate anybody, whether women, children, or even the disability, because we have cases of also disability.
Hapa Garissa tunaamini kwa a lot of cases are not reported na despite kuwa na high rate of this triple threat cases. Kwa hivyo tungesema kwa as a civil society organizations tuko na a lot of a very strong network and partnership na tunakuwa tukifanya kazi pamoja to end this triple threat.
Now, the multi-billion Naivasha dry port is expected to employ over 4,000 people once fully operational. Azimio la Umoja leaders in Nakuru County have vowed to protect the park, despite Deputy President William Ruto promising to relocate services to Mombasa if elected into office. And according to Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui, millions of shillings and hundreds of man-hours had been invested in the dry port already, and the 1 billion shilling water project to the park is complete, with President Uhuru Kenyatta expected to commission it later in the week.
Sasa nimesikia baadhi ya viongozi wengine wakisema kwamba wakipata mamlaka ya kuingia kuwa rais wataondoa hii dry port irudishwe mahali ingine. Watu wa Mai Mahiu mmekubali? Mmekubali? Hatuwezi tukakubali hiyo maneno. Ati hii pesa yote imeletwa hapa, barabara imetengenezwa, tumelete container inakuja kuwa cleared hapa, ikiondolewa hiyo kazi yote itaondokea. Biashara yote ambayo imekuja hapa Mai Mahiu itakuwa imeenda. Mimi kama gavana wenyu nataka kuambia hivi, nikiwa gavana wa Nakuru hatutakubali hii.
Azimio One Kenya Alliance flag bearer Raila Odinga has dared his main rival in the August 9th presidential race, William Ruto, to focus on the race, insisting that Azimio will be in the contest, as he lauded IEBC for the preparations being put in place that is ahead of the general election. Raila and team campaigning in Narok County noted that the ongoing preparations by electoral body were satisfactory, and as Moige William reports.
Azimio One Kenya Alliance presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga has expressed his satisfaction with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC's preparations in regards to meeting their demands of availing a manual voter register as a backup to the electronic one in each polling station. Odinga insists they will not boycott the fast approaching polls, as alleged earlier by his main rival Deputy President William Ruto while touring Turkana County.
Sisi kama Azimio hatujasema hata siku moja ati tutasusia uchaguzi. Sisi tulisema kwa IEBC ati tunataka wafanye mpango kambambe kuhakikisha kwamba uchaguzi utafanyika kwa njia ya haki na ukweli. Hatutaki wizi ya kura.
In a vote hunting mission in the Marland, Narok County, Raila at the same time lashed out at William Ruto over his continued scathing attack directed at President Uhuru Kenyatta and him, urging Ruto to prepare for a stiff competition in the presidential race.
Jamaa amezoea sana kuongea juu yangu. Marsio yule mtu ya kitendawili, sijui nini, mara mingi si mimi sirika yake. Mimi sirika yake. Anaongea maneno ambayo hayana maana. Ati sisi tunaogopa.
Leading a host of politicians, the Azimio team rallied residents of Narok County to support Raila's presidential bid, pledging a number of promises, among them protecting the Mau forest.
Kama gavana wako wa Narok, kwamba wakati huu unapata kura kutoka Transmara, utapata kura kutoka Narok West, Narok North, kila mahali ya Wamasai mpaka itokea Marsabit.
Na kura za mwaka huu ni kura ya kuleta Wakenya wote pamoja. Ni kura ya kuleta watoto, wanawake, vijana, wazee, na kura ni kwa baba.
Sisi hatuogopi Kenya kwisha. Sisi tuko na watu. Tunajua Wakenya wako na sisi. Na tutashinda hiyo uchaguzi na 70% na kitu.
With 28 days to go before the general election, the Azimio One Kenya Alliance, led by Raila Odinga, has promised to intensify its campaigns across the nation in a bid to woo Kenyans to support Raila's bid to take over the reins of power from Uhuru Kenyatta. Moige William, TV 47.
More on politics, UDA party presidential candidate William Ruto led Kenya Kwanza Alliance's vote hunting mission in Bungoma and Kakamega counties as he intensifies his state house bid. 28 days to the general election, and as Mike Kagwongo reports, Ruto alongside Ford Kenya party leader, that is Moses Wetangula, and his Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka urged Bungoma residents to support their bid in a mission to secure the victory.
With the August 9th general election drawing near, the two main presidential contenders have pitched tents in Western Kenya to consolidate votes in a bid to crack the 50% plus one equation after the election. In the company of area kingpins including Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula and Ken Lusaka, Deputy President William Ruto stormed Bungoma County, where he enjoys a big following from members of parliament including Mwambu Mabonga of Bumula, Didmas Barasa of Kimilili, Majimbo Kalasinga of Kabuchai, and Dan Wanyama of Webuye West. In Kimilili constituency, the trio was treated to a stirring welcome from area residents as they strive to cement Ruto's long-time relationship with the Mulembe nation. The convoy toward Tongaren, Kimilili and Bumula constituencies, among other areas in Bungoma County.
Namwambia bwana kitendawili, safari hii wewe utakutana na mimi. Siwezi nikakuruhusu upange tena maandamano na huwezi tena kujiapisha. Hata reli uweze kungoa.
The cost of living being the topic of the day, the Kenya Kwanza Brigade maintains that they were still on course to liberate Kenyans once they take over power next month.
Tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8, mkipiga kura, hiyo kura ni ya kuteremsha bei ya unga. Hiyo kura ni ya kuteremsha bei ya mafuta. Hiyo kura ni ya kuleta elimu ya bure kwa watoto wetu.
Hii mtu ya kitendawili na hawa wenzake hawajawahi kulala njaa siku moja. Hawaelewi kulala njaa ni nini. Hata saa hii tunasema bei ya unga imepanda, hawaelewi.
With less than 28 days remaining to the general election, Azimio la Umoja flag bearer Raila Odinga once again found himself on the receiving end, following his demands on the poll agency chairman Wafula Chebukati.
Wachana na Wafula Chebukati. Wafula Chebukati ni chairman wa Electoral Commission ya Kenya, IEBC. He also happens to be part of this community, and we are proud of him. Na tutamtetea, sio kwa sababu anatoka hapa, ni kwa sababu anaweza kazi yake.
Amesema sijui kama hakuna manual register ati hakutakuwa na uchaguzi. Nilisikia tena juzi wamesema ati hawana imani na IEBC. Mimi nataka niwaambie wa Kenya, msikuwe na wasiwasi. Nyinyi mniwaachie huyu kitendawili nitadili na yeye.
In the mission to secure the Mulembe nation and paint the area yellow and green, the second in command says he will ensure that the ailing sugar sector is revived within the 3 months if he wins the August 9th election.
Ile viwanda yetu Malaba Malakisi ilianguka, Tobacco ilianguka, Nzoia iko shida, Mumias ilianguka. Hii mambo yote tunaenda kuanza mpya tukiwa kwa serikali yetu.
Hivyo tutafanya kwa textile, hivyo tutafanya kwa agro processing na value addition na manufacturing. Ndio tuhakikisha kwamba tunazalisha nafasi ya ajira katika taifa letu la Kenya.
Ruto blamed President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake partner Raila Odinga for their hard economic times being experienced in the country, claiming that the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition has nothing to offer Kenyans. Ruto said his government will prioritize reducing the cost of fertilizers so as to enable farmers to produce enough food for the country to deal with the current food shortage facing the country. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47.
Kamili ama mulipata muktasari peke yake.
Deputy President William Ruto and Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga's positions on the use of a manual and or electronic voters register in next month's general election deepened. That is Monday during the ongoing national election conference. Azimio's Raila Odinga, who was represented at the event by Dr. Caroline Karugu, told IEBC to put its act together and avoid letting Kenyans down. Deputy President William Ruto, through UDA Secretary General Veronica Maina, told IEBC Chairperson Wafula Chebukati not to backpedal on the use of an electronic register. TV47's Apollo Kamau with that.
With 29 days to go before next month's general election, UDA's presidential candidate William Ruto and Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga are locked in a stalemate on the use of a manual and electronic voters register, leaving IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati, who allayed rigging fears, in a catch-22 situation.
That the IEBC, in exercise of its mandate, registered all the Kenyans using the biometric electronic system, the BVR kits. That same method that you use for registration must be the same method that you use for identification of voters during the voting process in the upcoming general election. It is a big matter, yet it could be a small matter if we follow the protocol, if we use correct registers.
It is our hope, therefore, as Azimio la Umoja, that our concerns are constantly being reviewed and addressed by the IEBC. I appeal to IEBC not to let Kenyans down.
Kwa hivyo masuala na maneno kama yale yanaelezewa na kiongozi wa Azimio akitajataja kwamba hatakubali uchaguzi unaoongozwa na IEBC kama mambo fulani haifanyiki. Sisi tunataka kumwambia Wakenya wametoka katika nyanja hizo za kusema ukitaka usipotaka. Tumeenda nyanja za kusema kwamba kama ndugu na dada wa Kenya tunatafuta serikali ya kuangalia Wakenya na kufanya mambo yao. Kwa hivyo tutaweza kushauriana.
On the first day of the National Election Conference, where presidential candidates committed to a peaceful poll, Roots Party presidential candidate Professor George Wajakoya and Agano presidential candidate David Wahiga, IEBC received support from unlikely quarters.
We have reached out to Chebukati wherever we have to, and we have spoken to him in a silent way. We don't make noise or we don't beat drums. We work indirectly.
We have not been in this road again, so we don't even understand some of the complaints that are being thrown your way. But don't allow yourself to be sidetracked.
With pressure mounting on IEBC to conduct a seamless poll, the European Union and the United Kingdom, represented by their respective ambassadors, gave IEBC a clean bill of health on the Commission's preparedness, while stating they are not supporting any side in this election.
With 29 days to go until the 9th of August, the world is watching the example that Kenya, we know, will set. We want to see free, fair, credible and peaceful elections. We want to see a contest and debate of ideas and issues in a tone of friendship.
The court observer team has already arrived in the country. Needless to say that the EU will remain strictly neutral and will strictly respect the sovereignty of Kenya.
IEBC has appealed to the judiciary to fast-track pending cases before court, delaying the printing of ballot papers, which Chief Justice Martha Koome says will be dispensed with by Friday this week.
The judiciary will fast-track the cases, nomination disputes. Please do so, for we are running behind schedule in printing of ballot papers. And actually, by this week, we should have finished all the printing.
The High Court last week, sitting in Mombasa, ordered IEBC to stop the printing of the Mombasa governor race ballot papers, pending the outcome of the Mombasa gubernatorial candidate Mike Sonko case on Friday this week. With just 29 days left to the general election, IEBC cannot afford to let its guard down, from the printing of ballot papers to the transmission of election results in what will be the country's 7th general election since the onset of multi-party democracy. Apul Kamau, TV47 at the KICC in Nairobi.
And Nairobi Gubernatorial aspirant and UDA party member Johnson Sakaja last evening confirmed that he has been gazetted by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to vie for the county's top job after his university degree from Thames University was verified by the Competency Authority, the Commission for University Education. Now, speaking during the 2022 Nairobi gubernatorial debate, Sakaja claimed that the wars dodging his ambition to lead the county are pure malice propagated by his opponents. Take a look.
Do you believe that it is important for someone running for governor to have a degree?
It's not just important, it's a requirement by our constitution.
Do you have a degree?
That's the reason I'm here. That's the reason I've been gazetted. I do have all the qualifications required to run for governor of Nairobi, and on top of a degree, beyond just the academic qualifications, I have the competence, the character, I have the will and the experience to lead this county of Nairobi.
Why is it so contested?
Because, as I've said, the head starts being sought include that. I think, I feel bad for my opponent because majority, or rather the biggest part that his team has been relying on was not to have me on the ballot. I'm glad I had his said, because I've been around, I've been in this complex and listening, saying that, he wants me on the ballot. I'm glad he said that, but many of his political benefactors do not want me on the ballot because they know the effect of that. I do have a degree from Thames University. I presented it on the 6th of last month to the competent authority, which is the Commission for University Education. After that, it was presented to the counterpart commission in the, in our neighboring country. They verified it. Many people have said that I'm trying hard to prove that I have one. Actually, it's my detractors trying hard to prove that I don't have one. Now, this issue is before the court, and the reason I sympathize is that if my opponent and his team focused on going to the people, then they would stop looking for solace in the courts. I have it. In fact, I would want to display it today to all of you to see. I don't know how you'll verify it, but the competent authorities and institutions that have to verify it have actually said it is.
The Kenya Wildlife Services, KWS, has intensified its efforts in evacuating herds of elephants that had invaded villages in Ganze sub-county, Kilifi County, as leaders call on a speedy evacuation exercise. Samson Kotire, who is the Coast Region Senior Warden, told journalists in Kilifi town that they are using the helicopters to herd the elephants back to the Tsavo East National Park, further calling on people to keep away from the elephants. Now, Mr. Kotiri told residents to report and record any losses made by the elephants for possible assessment by the KWS compensation scheme. His sentiments were echoed by Kilifi woman representative Gertrude Mbeyu Mwanyanje, who also called on the agency to end the perennial invasion of elephants into villages and farms in Ganze.
Askari sehemu hiyo kuweza kusukuma ndovu wale waweze kurudi katika sehemu zao za uhifadhi. Utakumbuka ya kwamba hizi sehemu ni sehemu za mazile zilikuwa njia za wanyama, lakini sasa ni mahali ambapo wananchi wameshaweka settlements pale, na tumeweka hata kikosi ambacho maalum katika kusukumana na wanyama ama kujaribu kusaidia wananchi kutengamana na wanyama hawa. Tumetuma kikosi hicho maalum kutoka sehemu za Tsavo iweze kuja kusaidia kwa kazi hiyo.
Kwa heshima kuu ya kaka yetu Bishop, kwa sababu alisoma kule Mwahera, Sokoke Ward, Ganze, KWS officers mko hapa. Tuna shida ya ndovu kule. Tumezungumza leo, nimewapata hapa one on one. Ofisa mkubwa uko hapa. Tumepiga makelele katika TVs. Kwa heshima yake kwa sababu alisoma Mahera na ni kule Ganze Sokoke. Muuliza MC anayeingia kanambia ndovu bado wako kule. Kwa heshima yake tuone wale ndovu wapeleke mbuga kuu kule Tsavo.
And fisher folks from Migori County are set to benefit from a multi-million fish processing plant that will enable them to enhance value addition for their fish. The 140 million shillings plant located at Surrey Town will provide cooling and storage facilities to minimize waste education by poor handling of fish in order to maximize profits out of their marine activities and stabilize the dwindling economy of the area. While speaking during the inspection of the ongoing construction work, Nyatike Member of Parliament Tom Odege has said that the facility will cushion fishermen from perennial exploitation in the hands of middlemen by dictating the price of the commodity.
Will allow us to keep our fish for a longer period. As much as the market is dwindling, we can still wait for that market to come and we market our fish. Because of some machines being installed here, which means there will be value addition, because if we do filleting here, it will help us to even export our fish directly from Surrey. So this one is something which we must embrace as a community, because it's going to change the lives of these people here. Our fishermen in the lake must be protected so that they do business without any threat. As we are talking today, people are not assured when they leave for fishing, you can either come back without fish or you come back without your fishing gear.
Banana farmers in Maragua constituency have called on Murang'a County to construct a fruit processing factory in the area to cater for fruits that are becoming a waste due to lack of markets. Now, the farmers, despite farming for bananas in a large scale, have never had a way to sell their product or their produce in any of the markets abroad, despite receiving numerous promises by politicians on how to source for markets for their farm produce. Maragua Member of Parliament Mary Waithera who attended the farmers' meeting to listen to their pleas, say that she will petition the next county government of Murang'a to ensure that the area benefits from a fruit processing plant that is the only answer to solve most of the problems facing the constituency.
County government through the other government that we are going to elect come 9th August, that since agriculture is a devolved function that belongs to them, it is of essence that out of the farming that we are doing, there are a lot of bananas, a lot of mangoes, a lot of oranges, anything that goes around the horticulture, that we want to say the next government that gets into power, there is a big rad more than 10 acres that was shelved a long time. And I remember during our 2013 campaigns, our Governor Mwangwairia had promised that he was to construct an industry that is going to take care of the mangoes processing, the bananas, the avocados, and also the oranges that are planted in this area.
Tuna shida juu tunalima makorobia, tunalima madisi na tukalima mahidi. Lakini wakati wa kuuza tunakuwa na shida sana, juu mabroka wanakuja, wanachukua vitu zetu na bei ya chini kabisa. Wanatununulia shilingi 5, shilingi 10. Sasa tunaambia mheshimiwa akiingia na government county itutengenezee matanki juu ya.
All right, and this morning we look at the state of the nation, a couple of subjects that we'll be touching on this morning. Just to get the submission of the gentlemen that I'll be having on set, we look at the preparedness of the general election and the IBC, so much more that is being done to make sure that they accord us a free and a fair process. Also, we'll be looking at the gubernatorial debate that played out yesterday at the Catholic University, an inaugural one, and the presidential debate team, as well as just unpacking some of the talks of matters campaign. We have seen the key contenders, the presidential contenders, actually traversing the different parts of the country in a bid to sell their manifesto, in a bid to speak to the people so that they can be voted in. So this is what is playing in the country, as well as, guided by some of the stories that will have been captured on the papers this morning. There's so much that is happening politically. And so I'll be looping in the guests that will join us for this conversation in a bit. We already have one in studio. One will be joining us virtually. And we're looking forward to get a hold of the other who's set to join us in a bit. And when I say one is in studio already, it's none other than Zach Kinuthia, who is the Member of Parliament candidate Kigumo constituency. Zach, thank you so much for creating time to be with us this morning.
Thank you, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very nice. How was your holiday? Like Eid ul Adha.
Eid ul Adha. You know, you have just told me that, for you there is no holiday. I think for journalists too, there was no holiday. It was a very busy day for us yesterday.
I know.
I mean, preparing the gubernatorial debate. We all did not expect that it's going to be a holiday, but it landed on this very day.
Yeah.
And indeed it was a success. And so we'll be discussing that in a bit, but as well allow us to introduce Dr. Barak Muluka, communication advisor, who joins us virtually all the way from Emmanuel. Dr. good morning.
Morning, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm trying to follow you. Though I can't see you, but I can hear you. I think that's what matters.
Well, we'll fix that in a bit. I'm told that's a bit of a hitch, but in a bit you'll be able to see me. And yes, Zach is here. He says Jambo. Let me speak on his behalf.
Jambo, Zach, I hope the campaign is coming up rather well.
Jambo, the poet from Emmanuel.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Yes, 27 days to it, like you have said. And yes, the campaigns are in high gear. I'm of the feeling that this time around, there's not so much of intolerance, which we celebrate, that we've heard a little bit sober campaigns, well, aside from the fact that we've seen leaders, digressing a bit, but all the same, Zach, in comparison to what was there in 2017, do you suppose that political moment, that political feel, euphoria, intolerance is what we have today, or is a bit different? And is that a show of maturity?
I would say it's lessening. That stiff the competition leading to violence, anarchy, the intolerance tangible, because you would have felt it in the elections. If you look at elections that have been conducted under the new constitution, they are a bit different. And then because my co-panelist, Dr. Muluka, has been here longer, he can relate better. Since 1988 elections, when district commissioners were the returning officers, and when Kanu, I was surprised to learn that Kanu in 1963, 66, 74 is one that would organize meetings for aspirants to go and speak to the people.
Right.
Kanu, the political party. From those days all the way to now, when people can freely talk to the electorate, when people can walk where they want, I think things are different, and they are different for the better.
Right.
However, and this is important, it is true to say some of the lyrics of that dark day of insults, rubbish, name calling, still lingers among some very few candidates, and sadly, Kiambu has taken center stage, especially in the gubernatorial elections, where you see people are still fighting, people are still insulting each other. There are some candidates who are capitalizing on expletives, and this is sad. But generally, we would say in a presidential contest, you can see that things are somehow sober, not 100% sober, because still people can still refer to each other, which is not bad, because people must find a way of outfoxing each other. But generally, campaigns are sober this time.
Right.
But again, perhaps for another reason. Below presidential campaigns are slow.
Yeah, they are.
Why? Because there's no money.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be about money? That's an interesting one. And I think we loop in Dr. Barak. Dr. Barak, this time around, well, perhaps we would say the politicians have really not been disciplined. But the masses, would it be unfair to point fingers at the politicians? And would it be true to say that it's not been all heated on ground today? And could this have been occasioned by the fact that there is really no money? Must it be about money?
Money is important. You have got to move from one point to the other. You have got to prepare campaign materials, publicity, props, and gimmicks. Those kinds of things. You need money to do them. Over and above, of course, that here in this country, there is always voter treating, and the voters actually, you see them scampering across the terrain. If they hear that politician A is in such and such a location, they go there not necessarily to listen to the message, but in expectation of some largesse, some handout, and that sort of stuff. That said and done, I want to agree with Zach Kinuthia that we are seeing a lot more discipline, but this discipline, interestingly and paradoxically, is coming not so much from the politicians, but from the people, the citizens, that they have elected to conduct themselves in a more mature manner. Quite often there is an attempt to incite
Well, we'll fix that H in a bit and get back to Dr. Barak on that, but I guess his submissions are as good as well articulated. And so, Zach, it is all about the gubernatorial opposition, or the debate that happened yesterday, the Catholic University, and historic moment really did not disappoint. Starting from the first group that joined in, 4 candidates that presented their manifestos or spoke hugely about what it is that they seek to do to the people of Nairobi. And Nairobi is a business of everybody in the country, that's for sure. In as much as you are somewhere in Kagumo, that should be Murang'a County.
Yeah, sure.
In reality is that it's important that we understand what happens at the country's capital. And so in a bit, we'll be having Dr. Duncan Ojwang as well join us so we can get into this conversation of what is set for Nairobi. Interesting time, I have to acknowledge, especially after what played out when the 2 candidates joined in, or they came onto the podium, that is Polycarp Igathe of Jubilee Party, as well as UDA's Johnson Sakaja. First of all, without delving deep into what it is that the others had to say and the plans that they have for Nairobi, a 2-horse race?
Yes, it is.
Clearly.
Yes, largely it's a 2-horse race. Really, if it was a political analyst, I would say otherwise. But because I'm a political animal, I think it is important to say it is a 2-horse race, just as the presidency is. And to agree with Dr. Muluka, the discipline of hitherto elections nowadays is coming from the electorate, not necessarily from politicians. It is important to say that the person sanctioning good politics is the people, the voter. Because the voter is also on lookout on the person presenting themselves to them on credentials of maturity and integrity, and generally the habits and the attitude. So I think that's right, Daktari, that yes, the voter is the one leading in this matter. You know what I feel about yesterday.
Yes.
And I will start corrected, because we are not coming here to bring novel knowledges. We come here to discuss things as we see them. I don't understand why they divided the candidates. It is unfair.
Is it?
It's totally unfair, because
it's based on the polls which we have here this morning, and we're talking about the polls in a bit.
These polls are sanctioned.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't take polls to your bed.
Don't you think that then would be contradicting your statement? You started by saying that it's clearly a 2-horse race, according to your analysis.
It's not about polls. When I say it's about 2-horse race, it's not about polls. It's about, one is of the major coalition, and the other one is of the other major coalition. On that basis, they are the major candidates. Doesn't mean that it is it is on table of equity that there's somebody better than the other. And what I feel between Igathe and Sakaja, there was no debate.
Is it?
Yeah, there was nothing.
It's technically what Dr. Barak says. These were individuals that were out there to.
It's unfortunate, because Igathe fell tricks of abrasive and warlike Sakaja, because first he came late, secondly he came defensive. He didn't come ready.
He didn't come ready to debate.
Yes, he came offensive.
To attack or what?
Actually, he came offensive.
Okay.
Then my brother Igathe became defensive.
Okay.
So yesterday, the matter of the fact is that Nairobians did not get justice about who can be the best leader. Yesterday, totally, it was reduced. And that's what I'm saying is unfair to divide.
Okay.
Because had these two gentlemen been put alongside these other relatively weaker candidates, they can spice up things. They would have spiced up things. Because in the midst of the others, one would have spoken something that would have stabilized the, the attentions, the high-handedness, the feeling of importance of both would have been neutralized by the rather smaller, because the attention can easily shift to the smaller candidate who makes sense. Because yesterday, I really didn't like it. And I'm sorry, because I hope the presidential debate will not be divided. Of these four, I hope there shall not be two debates.
Okay.
One. Number two, I hope these two candidates, Raila and Ruto, I hope there shall be a sticking to the agenda of the Kenyan people, not of the individual.
Okay.
I hope the Raila will not throw jibes to Ruto, and Ruto will not throw jibes to Raila, so that we can get the best out of these gentlemen who can tell us what it is. But I'm sure Ruto will come as Sakaja came, defensive, warlike, and looking for war from every quarter, even from journalists, because the journalists right were there to ask, do you have a degree? I mean, the guy should have just answered. Number two, is your name Sakaja? He should have answered, but he came.
But don't you think his points were valid when he asks, whom did you invite? I mean, you invited Sakaja, obviously. So why would you want to question?
No, but they were asking objective
in the context of what it is that Igathe had raised.
That is it. It's just like Mike Sonko. If that question was to Sonko, are you Mike Sonko? It's a good question from a journalist, because he should be able to say, I have a stage name that I'm known by, which is Mike Sonko, but my name in the academic papers is Kioko
Mbuvi.
Kioko Mbuvi. He should have been. These are questions that a leader is tested on temperament. He failed on it. He did not know that. Let me tell you, when I was applying for something that I will not mention here from government quarters, I was asked a question by a psychiatrist. Do you know what the psychiatrist asked me?
Tell us.
Zach, are you married? I said, yes, I have a wife. Outside your wife, how many women have you slept with?
Is it?
Yeah. So
can you tell us the answer?
What I was looking
Did you go straight to the answer?
What I was asking about, I think they didn't need to protect me, because this
I can tell you for free, the dean will not protect you.
No. The answer, the point is, I was supposed to get angry. That question was coming to me to test my temperament, because as a matter of fact, I was applying for a license to hold a firearm. Okay.
Right.
This is a very sensitive thing that you cannot trust every Kenyan to have. So you must be made angry to see how you can react. So this question of what is your name, it is a question of testing temperament. He didn't know. The same was asked to the other guy, and he said his other three names. If you do not control your temper, if you cannot show a good temperament, then there's no question of you being a leader.
Hold it right there. Yes, the Dean Law African Nazarene University, Dr. Duncan Ojwang is here with us. Duncan, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Panelists, I apologize for tardiness this morning.
Oh, thank you, at least.
So that I'm
at least you're not going
Sakaja
to be... So are you going to defend Zach by all means? Or are you going to defend Zach? He says, I hope the Dean protects me.
Yeah, you have to, he'll protect me, because the question he's asking me to answer is very dangerous here.
Anyway, Dean, you're privy to the events of yesterday. We started by asking, first of all, whether there's that general feel, that the election nearing period is not as polarized as it was some times back. That is in terms of, the campaign trails, whether there's so much of intolerance. There's really not much to get us a bit worried, apart from the fact that the leaders have really not, behaved as we would have expected. I don't know what you make of the campaign mode as it stands today in comparison to what was there then. Zach is of the idea that perhaps there's not much of pomp, color activities playing out, because there's not much of money again.
Right, no t-shirts, no posters,
no laces,
women. No handbag, carry bags, no head wraps. So we are only seeing billboards. and looks like that is what we will see. So it's a different campaign, I agree. I think that there is no more euphoria we'll see beyond what we are seeing in the campaign trail. I also assume that those who did their campaign early probably calculated better, because you don't see much momentum coming to those who are coming late. Like, okay, this is it. The referee have said play on, and therefore, that drive. So yes, things have slowed down, but I think that could also be the form. The teams are too big, two major teams that it is the team, almost both sides have their internal issues that they are managing vis-a-vis the external.
Yeah.
But I also think that the nature of this campaign, that this is the first time we don't have a presidential candidate from Mount Kenya.
Okay.
So people who had shaped narratives don't know how to shape this one when Mount Kenya become the hunted.
And that you're going to overlook the presence of Wahiga Mwaure?
Wahiga, not to overlook, but to say maybe it has not picked the momentum yet.
Yeah.
So I think that by itself, the polarizing lines and the fault lines had been built around Mount Kenya versus the Luos, versus wherever. So the tribalists are still wondering, who do I hate? How do I shape this?
Okay.
It has thrown things off because when Mount Kenya is not running for president, then I think that the lines we are used to, the tribalism we are used to, the polarization that quickly kicks in because it goes back to history, and we reach out to it, and we define the fault line very clearly, that this is why it is life and death, is missing. And that is why I also believe that we will not see post-election violence. We will not see much of problem, whichever side win, because at the end of the day, we don't see the usual cracks. If Mount Kenya is in both sides.
Well, fair enough. Let's loop in Dr. Barak. If you can hear me, Daktari, as you perhaps wind up on your submission, would you agree with Dr. Duncan that in the event that we tame the question of tribalism, say tame the mountain in a huge way, tame the Nyanza region, perhaps the Kalenjin side, then we can be rest assured that we have, peaceful processes all the way in future?
Thank you once again. I do not know whether it is right to insinuate that the violence we have witnessed in the past plays itself around the mountain. I really doubt, particularly ethnic-based violence. If you look at the theaters of this violence, you have seen that they tend to begin from Naivasha all the way to the lake, all the way into the Rift Valley, and all the way to the Kenya-Uganda border region. You do not see much of that happening deep in the mountain. Nyeri goes on as if nothing is happening. Murang'a, like Kipia, you see a bit of it. But I really don't know. Perhaps the good Dr. Duncan Ojwang may need to contextualize that a little more. But there are things which I cannot close my brain to, my mind to, my eyes to. When you hear people saying things like Vijana Fire, we have learned to treat them as images. They are imageries that come back to disturb us afterwards. When you hear things like uko na risasi, uko na bunduki, don't take them that lightly. When you hear something like ukiona hii sura yangu mimi ni mtu anaweza kuiba kura yangu kweli, I think these are things which we should not take lightly. We should not lie to ourselves that all is well. The one thing which I recognize as missing, and in a good way so, is the heavy-handedness of the state. The elements of state violence are so far absent, and I think that is a good thing. Many times the violence erupts and plays around itself around instigation by the state, the Ministry of Interior, the police in its various guises, whether it comes as administration police, National Police Service, or it comes as GSU. Those are people who have been very instrumental in the instigation of violence. I do hope that they will not be there. But the politicians, particularly the politicians, have got to tone down some of the very nasty things they say. Zach Kinuthia was talking about expletives, and I saw a bit of that effort at expletive expression on the debate in the evening, where you are using things like a thief, someone is preparing to steal this man here. Respect your fellow panelists there, referring to people blatantly as thieves who are amassing money so that they can steal. Finally, Linda and co-panelists, this thing of saying that these ones are junior candidates and these ones are senior candidates, it is prejudicial. The media has already prejudged them, and even the people whom we are calling the giants, to a very significant extent, there have been creations of the media that you focus on them to the exclusion of the others, you push them in the shadows. As Zach Kinuthia says, there's always that possibility that when you have these people on the same platform, someone is going to emerge who is focused on issues, who is going to neutralize these two, who is going to take advantage of their querulous approach to debate, and who starts rising to significance that could push the poll to a rerun, significance that could, in principle and in the extreme case, just bring in a so-called third horse.
Dr. Barak, does it matter the platform if you are competent enough, if you're good enough, if you have matters, Nairobi at heart, if you have your plan all well orchestrated, does it really matter the platform?
It matters. It matters very much. That is why it is called a debate. You put me here, you put the other person there. We speak to a subject, we speak to a topic. There's a rebuttal, repartee, that this person speaks and I'm there to respond. I speak and they're there to respond, rebut, to rebut. You say this and then I say, but there is this, there is that, the repartee. That is missing. If we didn't want to do that, then we should just give each one of those people their own opportunity to speak. We interview each one of them. And Linda, Zach Kinuthia talked about temperament. If it is true that last evening we had Polycarp Igathe and Johnson Sakaja, and that Sakaja was tested for temperaments, I don't think that Zubeida Akome, who was the owner of this testing, so-called testing of temperament, did the same with Igathe. She tended to handle him with tender gloves. And we people in linguistics, in communications, look also at body language. You can see the body language giving you away that you wear this military kind of expression when you are speaking to one candidate, and then there's this genial smile when you are speaking to the other candidate, and there's even softness in the inflection of your voice, and these things give you away. The people who are umpires in these things should know that they are also being assessed. It's not just the guests who are being assessed. We are also assessing the Komes, the Mark Maasais, the Mwaiga Mauras, and the rest of them. You are also on the weighing scales.
All right. Well, fair enough. Let's first of all hear what Dr. has to say about this. A couple of matters to be addressed, and to be honest, even those ones that planned for the debate picked few, because we realized that there are about 9 candidates, and all these matters in one evening have to be addressed, and therefore they picked on matters like corruption, financial boost of the county, garbage, the question of city governance, and not everything about Nairobi. In the best interest of time, perhaps they thought it would be wise to have these candidates coming on different sets. Do you suppose that was misplaced an approach, and that in the others that are coming on board, perhaps that needed to be reconsidered?
I think that the debate is meant to whet our appetite. It will not be enough to exhaust the issues.
Yep.
You can catch up with the candidates in their natural habitat, in the rallies, in their other campaign, and therefore this is an aspect of campaign. And we might be tempted to do what is not meant to be done in a debate, because I think it cannot exhaust all the issue, and it does not need to. Yeah. Secondly, again, the journalist was taking questions from the opponent. So the opponent come and say, I don't even know whether you are so and so, and then she trumpets the same question, that are you really so and so? So you wonder, is she a debater? Is she a moderator?
Don't you think these are things that Nairobians, for instance, really wanted to know?
I don't know which Nairobians.
I don't think so, Linda, absolutely not.
But probably the answer merited. I don't blame Sakaja at all. Whom did you invite? Are we here to talk about Nairobi, or you trumpeting and projecting the fears of my opponent or from the other side? And so at that point, it's fair game, because the moderator became a player, and it came out. But you see, it sucks to be them, because you are dealing with somebody who is used to, the obstacles are the way.
Right.
That is Sakaja. That he turns those obstacles and make his way out of them. So I don't mind tackles. I don't think that, and I disagree that when they talk about you quitting or you don't have a degree, that is not important either. In my view, I think the ability, anybody can come with a plan. You can find a school project and come with a brilliant plan about Nairobi, but do you have the stamina? Who are you? It's important. We are hiring both the plan and the planner. And therefore, I don't find it a waste of time, though I saw a lot of even post-debate analysis, which put Sakaja at 66%. I don't see that those personal those personal raising reasonable doubt about somebody's including temperament, is a waste of time, because it is a whole package. But beyond that, I think that what I was trying to explain, so I don't mind. We live in a country where the journalists and the media, they use airwaves paid by taxpayers, but they have outrightly taken sides, and therefore they will be called so. If they are incompetent, they will be told you are incompetent.
Without defending the Fourth Estate or the planners of this event, I have given you equal platform to weigh in on yesterday's debates, and we witnessed too. And guess what? You have decided to focus on Igathe and Sakaja as well. Dr. Barak has somehow touched on Igathe and Sakaja, as well as Dr. Ojwang. overlooking the other 4 that came prior. Is that a clear indication that, yes, let's give credit where it's due, that numbers really count, and therefore perhaps on this basis, then the planners decided that it would be wise to have 2 tiers of debate?
Just a few seconds to finish that. Yes, I think that this is society issues. These are not experimental laboratories. And therefore, I think that debate is among the peers. Just because you have checked all the IBC requirement and you are called a candidate, I agree that we should check and we should have tiers debate, and because it is not about how eloquent or how good the debater is. We must compare similar things, and therefore me, I support that. But finally, to answer Senior Dr. Barack Muluka, I wasn't saying that Mount Kenya has been the bedroom of violence. What I was saying is, I look at the Kenya history where it was 47 versus 1, or 46 versus 1. Then I look at the next election where it was 2 versus 45. Those kind of things, and those things have been able to come out that way because Mount Kenya is in the ticket and Nyanza or Luo Nyanza is in the ticket. And so when this time Mount Kenya have brought running mate both sides, and Mount Kenya itself do not have a presidential candidate, then that is why I was saying the polarization around 46 versus 1, 45 versus 2 is really not there, because it's not as symmetrical. You cannot clearly draw into the fault line that we have created.
All right.
Therefore disarming the violent aspect.
I'll still keep reminding people that, yes, we also have a candidate from the mountain by the name Wahiga Mwaure, but like Daktari would say, it's about the strength on ground. We take a short break, and then we come back, expound some more. Now getting into the issues that were picked to be addressed for the people of Nairobi, and just how best we need to brace ourselves to make sure that we guarantee ourselves a good governance that is in the next dispensation after this break.
You are watching.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why niliweka goose na si ducks
goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday.
Tell of this conversation, gentlemen, Duncan Ojwang, Barack Muluka, as well as Zach Kiduthia. Zach, let's for a moment overlook Sakaja and Igathe and perhaps look at the matters that really Nairobians would want addressed, even before it gets to that point. Career politicians versus, say, career professionals, because that's technically what was there. Looking at the first slot of a debate coming into the second one, there are a couple of people who really performed well in the first one, you know, and were able to articulate matters. The 25-year-old Hamad Gerwal appeared to be, you know, promising in terms of how he understood Nairobi and how he was, you know, he had his manifesto set to address all these matters. Do you suppose that we really need a politician like Sakaja or the likes that would be a little bit professional?
Many times I think we have said the governor's position is unfortunately sought politically, but it must never be administered politically.
Oh, yeah.
It is important to say that, and that means having a politician as a governor is a first miss. Having a professional as a governor is a first hit.
Okay.
But a first hit can be followed by many misses, while a first miss can as well be followed by many hits. And this is it. The other tier of governance, and I'm totally against that way of dividing, because if you are dividing because of time, then let's say this. We have here Kenya.
It really wasn't a question of time, because I mean this went all the way.
In terms of space, maybe they would say space. There are too many 11. It's not going to be relatable. I don't know why it was, but if they must divide next time, let them mix horses.
Okay.
Limping and flying horses. They must be mixed together. Like you could say in the first one, Sakaja should have been put in the first, or Igathe in the first amongst the others. And then they should have been divided into two, then put Sakaja or Igathe, you know, alternately, depending on whom you put. So that this question, as Dr. Barak put it, of assuming that X is already ahead, you know, these prejudicial arrangements of having candidates coming, the two coming together, like now, see, and I pray it doesn't happen. If William Ruto and Raila Odinga are going to be put in the same, Wajakoya and David Mwaure must not be separated.
Okay.
If this must play, I pray that either you put, if you must separate, put Raila and Mwaure perhaps, and then Ruto and Wajakoya, or other way, but don't divide. If not, put the four together. And I will strongly put this out. In 2017 and 2013, there are people who went to court over this same issue of saying that the Media Council, the organizer of this debate, is saying, Presidential Debate Organizing Committee, they are saying that they are using polls. Which polls? Yeah. But all of us know that polls are manufactured.
Okay.
So the manufacturer of the polls seem to be controlling the way you people are determining. Polls are not elections, and nobody knows who will lead in the coming election. We must never depend on polls to distribute equity. That one, for me, I must fight all the way up to the end. Now, this is it. I am vying in a constituency where we have 13 candidates. These candidates have already, some been declared underdogs. Others already, like us, have been declared the front runners. 2 or 3 of us.
By who?
Now that's the question.
The
this is the
polls,
question by who? Yeah, that's the question. By who? You know, people say, oh, people are saying.
And you think that
I think
is
it's unfair. I think it's unfair.
Is it factual?
Well,
it could be unfair,
no,
but is it factual?
It's not factual. Okay. You know why? Facts will be determined by numbers.
All right.
And numbers will not be determined pre-election. Numbers will be determined by voters. How many people of these pollsters came to you to ask you for, even to him as a professional, as a man who can control things by his office? How many people came to him to ask for the numbers to lead? However, what I'm saying in this matter is that in this second tier of governor candidates, there was a lot of sense.
Right.
As you have just put it there.
Okay.
You could feel if we elect people based on the vision they present to us, on the practicability of executing their vision, based by expression. Oh, these guys had points. I am telling you, Kenyans drew a lot of inspiration from this second tier, and they were sober, and they were giving each other time to listen and to talk, and they were saying that given this time, I will do X and Y and Z, but it is not going to happen as easy. It's not a bed of roses for them, because now political parties have already jostled for position in their two candidates, and I pray these things must be watched and taken into context by the way the leaders behave. All the behavior you saw yesterday in the last debate will be taken straight into the county assembly.
Wow.
The arrogance you saw in is he Johnson or is he Arthur? Even me, I really don't know. You know, something is so important to say. A man whose names are also shady talks about the character.
Right.
It is important to say that people who carry names, and this is known in the drug lords world, that people are not the names they present. They have other names to hide. But fair enough, the attitudes we saw yesterday in these two candidates would be carried along in the office, in the mannerisms, in the treatment of workers in the county, in the handling of MCAs, committees, CECs. There was a governor in Nairobi who would call CECs at 3 a.m. and some are women. How do you leave your husband at 3 a.m. that you're going to work? Or even if you are a man like me, how do you leave your wife at 3 a.m. that you're going to work? But the official time of working is between 8 to 5. But if you do work, maybe say 9 p.m. or 5:30 we were in the office. But if you say 3 or I'll fire you, these mannerisms were seen while debating. You remember when the other governors were debating in 2017 for Nairobi, because you're talking about Nairobi.
Right.
The attitudes we saw were carried all into the office. And I'm afraid what we saw yesterday could be carried along. So what I'm praying is that the media as an umpire must try and walk a very tightrope, because the greatest power of the media, which for me is dangerous and treacherous, is that the media is a sanctioner without a sanctioner without a sanctioner.
Well,
nobody sanctions the media.
Is it so? Is it so, Dr. Barak? You are a communication expert. Would you agree that there's nobody who sanctions the media? And if we are to look at, the two debates, all the candidates that presented themselves for this, we're talking about 6 of them. Do you suppose that there's one that really fits the bill in terms of handling Nairobi, or perhaps Nairobi would need more?
First, I did not watch the first 4 candidates. They were put, their debate was placed in the off-peak docket, because the media did not think that they were worthy of peak time.
It was a holiday, Dr. Barak.
May I be heard, please?
All right.
If you're hearing me, allow me to
proceed, Barak.
Make my
Proceed.
point. Yeah, allow me to make my point. They were transmitted off-peak because someone has already determined. I have worked in the media. I'm a journalist by training, examination, qualification, and practice. And I know that in broadcasting, there's A time, B time, C time, D time even. These people are almost being placed in D time. If the prophet Samuel were to conduct presidential debate and based it on the kinds of principles that this media and other organizers have used, then David would not have made it to prime time. He perhaps would not even have had the opportunity to debate. The people who would have made it to prime time would probably have been Eliab and Abinadab. Someone like Nathaniel and Ozem, who are also the sons of Jesse, and whom we never hear about beyond even the fact that they appeared before the prophet Samuel, they would not have made it to the presidential debate in this country. And therefore, let us consider that as media, you are setting agenda for the country. And as you are setting that agenda, you are telling Kenyans that these are the people. There were opinion polls, even at that time, of that kind. And the polls that we have in this country today, I have worked with the political parties. I have been present when some of the so-called pollsters have come in to give scenarios that this is how we will lift you from 25% to 30% to 35%. Then when we are getting to about this time, we will place you neck to neck. And at this time, you can sally forward and leave the other one behind. They are creating impression. Media build worldviews, they build perspectives, they build images, and they also destroy images. So let us not lose the sight of that. And I say this as a journalist myself. The only thing I have really done that is going to be memorable long after I'm gone is that I was a journalist and that I operated in that space. That doesn't mean that I must defend it even when it is indefensible. About names, Zach Kinuthia is wrong, absolutely so. My president for 15 years was called Jomo Kenyatta. Nobody asked him, are you Jomo Kenyatta or are you Johnston Kamau wa Muigai wa Ngengi? Why did he find it necessary to change his name? Joseph Mobutu was Mobutu, became Mobutu Sese Seko, and very many other people. What's in a name? That which we call a rose, the poet has told us, by any other name will smell as sweet. So if Jomo Kenyatta we lived with for to 15 years, and there are whole generations there who may not even know that Jomo Kenyatta was not his name. He had other names. I think it is an exercise in trivia. If Zubeida Kome wanted to interrogate the issues of Johnson Sakaja's university qualifications, there were better avenues. She should even have asked him that in 2017 you presented a degree before the IBC, which indicated that you had been to the University of Nairobi and you are a graduate of that university. What is the material position of that university degree? I think that would have been a more useful question than asking, are you Johnston Sakaja? Suppose I came up tomorrow and I said, I am Onesmus Okwaro. And people said, are you Onesmus Okwaro? Of course I am. There are people who don't know that that is my other, those are my other names. They are there in my documents. If I came and said I'm Okwaro Maina, what would you say? Those names are there in my identity card. They are there in my passport. But I've chosen to be Barack Muluka.
Okay, all right. And in defense of Zach, I think Zach says that there is really a problem in having several names.
Yes.
The best thing is to come out and say, for these reasons, I have picked this, I have decided to use this, and it becomes straight to the point. I stand corrected, Zach. But
No,
yes.
he said, I think he's right. What is in a name? But in defense again, and thank you for it, Jomo Kenyatta, in his trial in Kapenguria, was asked by the judge, I think it was Thaka, the presiding judge who sentenced Jomo Kenyatta into a long term, asked him, are you Jomo Kenyatta? And Dennis Pritt, his lawyer, wanted to protest, but the judge maintained, are you Jomo Kenyatta? Then Kenyatta gave an account of how he transmitted from Johnston Kamau Gengi, because Jomo Kenyatta's father was called Ngengi, but he died when he was still young. Traditionally, when a man died in Kikuyu and many cultures in Kenya, the brother to that man would adopt the mother to the left children. Inherit, yes, he would inherit the woman and the children. So when you are inherited by your father's brother, you are supposed as a man, as a boy, to accept his name for the sake of inheritance, so that you will take his land. So Jomo Kenyatta was called, first of all, there was no English name. He was baptized. He was called Kamau wa Gengi. You know, Gegi now, the late father.
Right.
But later he was called Kamau wa Muigai. But when he started forming identity of whom he is, then he dropped the name of the adoptive father and returned the name of his father. So that he was now Kamau wa Ngegi. But when he was now enlisted to Scotland Mission Church in Kikuyu, then he was baptized John Peter. But the father refused. The priest refused to have both names of both apostles. But he insisted until finally he said he's going to play tricks to the church. And because Peter was declared the rock unto which Jesus would build the church, he said, I am John Rock. They said, no, choose one. So he said, I'm John Stone.
Okay.
That's how Kenyatta became John Stone, Kamau.
Some history
Gegi.
there.
Yeah, it is important.
Yeah,
because
very
I like Daktari's trade of history. And now that we have a lawyer and a dean here, these things are also important. We are informing Kenyans here.
Right.
When you say you change a name, how did Kenyatta become Jomo? This name was given to him by his friend.
So you should be able to explain yourself and say, this is the reason.
He did say it. He started where I've started, came all the way. And you see what? Dhaka was mesmerized, this judge. But this judge was sent from hell, retirement package from the queen, to come and sentence this leader of terrorism, this terror leader, into detention and kill him. Because they called him a leader unto the darkness. My point was this: if Johnson Sakaja was sometimes Arthur Koskei, there's no shame. No, there's no shame in my former name. I would say, like for me, I have changed my name for the sake of politics.
Okay.
My name was, all of my documents read Zakaria Kenovia. But that's not what you know me.
Zach.
Yeah, you know me. I should be able to say.
Dean, allow us to take a short break, and so that we come to you, give you ample time to as well expound on this.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
Waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
The next prejudicial. Like
well, that's an answer as well. That's an answer. Point is home, Barack. Let's, Dr. Duncan.
You know, maybe just to give a reply, a feedback. When Kenyatta was being tried, there was no timing and time limitation. When Sakaja was being asked to answer his name, it was being counted and the clock was ticking. And he said, you are asking me a trivial question and eating into my time of answering serious issues. So I think that is where the comparison falls. And so I've read about the Kenyatta trial, facing Mount Kenya and all that. I think that, you know, when Igathe came and said he was just surprised the other day to find that Nairobians use donkeys That didn't look good. Kinuthia is talking of temperament, but he cannot see temperament in the quitting guy.
Okay.
Isn't that a temperament issue? I quit. What is more temperamental?
Is that not noble to say that, well, things are not going here? And he said, I do not want to sit here, continue taking money, pocketing money, yet there's really...
But remember...
And that's exactly what Deputy President William Ruto has said.
Don't subed us. Don't subed us.
Right,
let us explain.
Proceed.
Don't subed commerce. He simply said, how they did a lot of things.
Yeah.
Then... you just hear, I wasn't allowed to do things. I wish he could elaborate more, because he started to explain the 4 major things which they did when he was there. And then he dashed out. But overall, the quitting is also an issue of temperament. I'm just supposing. You might have a good reason to quit, but sometime it is an issue of temperament. I think that unlike most Kenyans, I don't get obsessed with words, because words reflect human thoughts. Words reflect the controversy in the society. So the problem is not the word. If somebody is saying, I have this is the word, sipangwingwi, or you guys are whatever, then the problem is not the word. The word is simply how humans describe their disagreement. So the issue then is the disagreement, not the words being used. And I don't think it is, for those who are proper, it is not an issue of table manners. This is where you put your napkins. This is where you put your fork. This is how you eat. You ask somebody to pass the salt along. You don't overreach. I'm not so much obsessed with mannerism. I want people to come out and be whom they are. We are dealing with Nairobi issue. We are dealing with serious life and death matters. We are dealing with a rough population. And so just being gentleman and whatever might not be enough. And I saw at the end of the debate, I saw the 2 gentlemen hug, talk, catch up, and therefore I think there is a great balance. They know when to work, when to disagree on principle, and maybe their friendship, probably friendship, is still intact. But again, when it comes to the debate, you see, it is possible that we might have a situation where somebody is running and is already endorsing another candidate in one way or the other. So when you bring them to the debate, you have 2 debaters against 1. And we see that in some quarters, where somebody is running and is saying, if you can't vote for me, vote for so-and-so. So if I bring so-and-so plus their proxy, who is also in the ballot, plus the other person, vis-a-vis this one individual, then you are finding that they are double teaming over this one individual. And that is why I think in wisdom, it does not make sense. This is not an academic exercise, no disrespect to academia. This is reality. We live in the human world where we see things, where people have dreams, but not all dreams are viable. Where we see that this is where the trajectory is, this is where the momentum is. You'll be a foolhardy to run a campaign and don't know how you rate. I mean, there's nobody who does that. Even the Bible is saying, who build a house without counting the cost. Dr. Barak Muluka analogy of David there. David would not have entered the debate, absolutely. If Samuel was presiding the debate, David did not enter. But thanks to God, he brought him anyway. So then the issue should not be whether these people enter. If it is for God, they will come anyway. And absolutely, there is no equality. Does not mean you get same thing. You get what you deserve.
Right.
So that if If I put size 18 shoe, and you're saying equality is to give everybody size 17, then you are not being equal. Equality will be to say, Ojuang, you put on 18, so and so you put 12, this is your size. That is equality. So there is nothing discriminatory in saying that, you know what, just like we are talking of why should the rich pay the same percentage of taxes with the poor? That is equity. And that is similar outcome. Why should we give women maternity and not Kinuthia maternity here? Because of obvious reason. And they are both workers and they are both loved, but each one is getting what they deserve. So I don't want to oversell this. To my senior Barack Muluka, I think I have no chance of convincing him. He's a journalist. But I think that sometimes people, I don't want to cheapen this, but people sign up for the anticipation of debate. And you hear a very sharp debater, but where are your polls? The place to change people is not in the TV set in 2 hours. You don't even campaign. We don't even see you somewhere. Somebody is campaigning day and night. You are in your house preparing for this debate. And so. But finally, I think where we have issues, or alluding that maybe Sakaja is Kibiegon, is whatever, is desperado. Because Sakaja stands in a good place. Whether it's Kibiegon, is Omondi, is probably the next governor of Nairobi. Almost stop me if you can. But this train, this horse is already flagged. And is mulling through, whether with the right name or wrong names, usually. And I worked in the UDA dispute tribunal. I realize how people who don't do very well see a lot of small things. I could hear the dispute and I could almost tell. This person will see that the ballot was supposed to come in yellow, they came in red. The returning officer stood facing east, he's supposed to face west. And I realized very well that it is very easy to pick out anybody clutching on any issue. This race will be won on the ballot. As a lawyer, there is so much advantage in technical knockout. You want to win something on technicality. It is not coming. Sakaja's degree was given. The only Senate, University Senate, can withdraw it. They have not. And therefore, whether you ask him for his meal card, whether you ask him for his graduation photo, those one we can do in social media, Mr. Sakaja will be in the ballot, and boy, be afraid.
All right.
Be very scared.
Okay, Zach, that the 6 will definitely be there, and out of them we get a governor, and so to speak, 9 of them, including the 3 that did not manage to attend the debate. And our biggest question then is that in as much as it was hugely on a question of personality, reality is that issues as well that, Nairobians would want to see addressed were addressed at this very point, and through their manifestos, through their plans, answering the questions that were asked to them. Do you suppose that we have the capability to translate these plans to action?
I don't think the voter has that capacity, and those who have the capacity have no time. And those that have time and capacity have no interest at all. Because, as he say, it's about winning in the ballot. We have trivialized elections, rather leadership, into an election affair. That as long as anything can get into the ballot in whatever name, and as long as it can pull sufficient interest among the people, then it can get there. And it is wrong. It is wrong, because I hope we can come to a point as a country, and I was happy in the beginning with the IBC, where we can say integrity is where everything begins. And integrity begins with self. If I proclaim that I am an academic giant, if it is important, because why would we behoove a governor to have a degree? Why? Why would we behoove a president to have a degree? A president could be a very popular person, like the boxer of Philippines. Totally popular in the global stage. In his country, building homes for the poor and uplifting millions from poverty. This is a popular and a good man. Why would we knock him out because of a degree? These are questions that we must answer, that the Constitution has beholden on us, because those are the only 2 elective seats where a degree is mandatory. Why? Have we been able to answer?
Why would we not, especially when you get to the House, perhaps you're summoned to answer, in these processes of oversight.
Yes.
How do you then sit there and you're oversighted by people who have these papers, these credentials, and
These questions are the one I'm saying, and I hope that Kenyans can process the question and answer it later.
Okay.
Because this one is a question that was thought. I hope the Constitution makers, the framers and the thinkers that came up with that issue of Chapter 6 and elections integrity can come up and tell us, guys, why we thought it is important to hold a degree as a governor and not as an MP, or why we thought it is important for the president to hold a degree than a senator, or why we thought all cabinet secretaries must have a degree and PSs must have a degree. We thought it because of there is a merit for it, and before anything is dismissed, there is a merit. We should have a merit. This is why we agreed as a nation that a governor should have a degree. That question on 27th of August, and a huge flag went into the air, akin to what happened when independence was coming in this country. We affirmed that it is good, yes, for an executive to hold a degree. Why? I mean, if a governor is going to talk about one home, one cow, does that not require a degree thinker? No. Wow. So, but why do we behold it? I'm talking about personal integrity. I don't think this time, and the doctor here can tell us better with the communications expert, Muluka. I don't think this time we may be able to net integrity as important, because still people with questionable known integrity have still sailed through manipulation of our courts, through manipulation of the law. They have managed in there. But we are saying, if I proclaim what I have, what I don't have, or if I proclaim what I am not worthy to go to the people to lead them. It is that easy. If I say I'm not a thief, for instance, is it? Because those questions are important. It's good to say I have not stolen anything. I'm being entrusted with 20 billion in Nairobi. I have never stolen a man's coin. I have never stolen a man's wife, and I have never stolen a man's land. Therefore, trust me to handle your resources. This is what we see in mature democracy. But if there is a case where you have been indicted and convicted of stealing, then you proclaim that you have never stolen, it is a knockout. Yeah, please go and sort yourself. We are saying that you may have repented, but you lied. On numbers, you saw when the Deputy President was being interviewed on one of the leading media houses here, speaking about numbers that are not there. You have seen him quoting scriptures that are not there. Things that we have seen for thousands of years as sacred scriptures that he has amended in his world of delusion. What are we talking about? Integrity. It's integrity issue. And I'm praying that now the three of us here, having been seeking what is good in the world, what is good in our what is good in our election coming, we are talking about integrity. He would want a good MP to represent him in parliament. He would want a good MCA wherever he lives, and he would want a good governor, both at home where his kinsmen are and in the city where he lives. We would want good people. These good people, unfortunately, we have reduced them into names. Okay, that ex-political parties. It is not important. Let us look at the people who can lead our country. Look at what happened in 2017. Because we forgot about Chapter 6, because we wanted grandstanding fight about political parties, at Uhuru Kenyatta must not lose Nairobi, Raila Odinga will not lose Nairobi. Please, it is not theirs. Nairobi is not Uhuru's. Nairobi is not Raila's. Neither in this election, Nairobi Uhuru's, rather Raila's. And it is neither Ruto's. It is the people. Is there clean, safe, drinkable, flowing water? Okay. That is a question we must answer. Are there good roads leading to secure neighborhoods? Is every Nairobian living a decent life of shelter, food, and cloth and education and medical care? Are our hospitals well equipped? If these are things that can be answered, there is no tribe in such thinking, there is no political party in such thinking, and there is no trivial debates in such thinking. And that's why I was saying the first round, because I managed to somehow watch, was full of what should be. The second one was not reflecting the needs of Nairobian. And I pray that Kenyans this morning watching at three of us can listen to us on objective installation of the next leaders for 5 years. Because 2 minutes, we will spend 2 minutes in the polling station, maximum, electing 6 leaders, and it will be a marriage of 5 years where we are choosing the bedmate.
Right.
Are they cruel or are they lovable?
Okay, Dr. Barak, as we sum it up or we close it on this one, corruption, perhaps how we would see the governors handle the question of graft, financial boost of the county, the question of garbage, city governance, question of integrity, key things that were addressed yesterday. First of all, good enough out of the 6, and I mean, I would want to say that our fate lies squarely on the hands of these 9, because one of them then will be elected governor of Nairobi. Moving on, good enough a debate to woo those ones that are undecided to this side, where they'd be able to make, a sober decision. And moving forward, would we say confidently that in all these individuals that we saw yesterday, then we can say that Nairobi is somehow safe?
Thank you, Linda. I will presently take on your question frontally, but I would like to disabuse my good friend Dr. Duncan Ojwang of the belief that words are not important. He's like the fellow who is asked, what do you read? And he says, words. Suggest that words are meaningless. I think Zach Kinuthia is familiar with Hamlet and with those words. Words are very important. We read that in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and nothing was made that was made without the Word. And we know that in the beginning God said, let there be light, and there was light. So with the words, just with the words, God made everything that there is in life and even in death. And nothing was made without, whether we are going to use words like corruption, we are going to use words like theft. Words like corruption are euphemisms. We try to deodorize certain things that should not be deodorized. We don't want to call a thief a thief. So we talk about ufisadi badala ya kuzungumzia wezi magenge. And many times the people we even call honorable members are basically honorable thieves. We need to start calling these things by name. The fact that they arrive on four-wheel guzzlers, that they live in green suburbia, does not make them any less thieves than they are. In fact, it's because they are thieves that they have all these trappings of the good life around them. So words are important. Some of the words tend to color these people, to decorate them, to perfume them, and they start looking and sounding better than who they really are. Are we safe with these people? They did not speak to their issues, the ones that I saw. I said earlier on that I did not watch the other four, and therefore I'm not able to say anything about them. They were brought on off-peak, I think deliberately, so that Nairobians are still trying to do other things away from home. Yes, it was a holiday, but nobody knew it was going to be a holiday anyway. So we can correctly say it was prejudice against them. These people here did not talk about how they are going to treat or to cure the burst sewers in Nairobi, the mixing of sewage water with the fresh water that we drink. They did not quite convincingly address how they are going to get rid of the water browsers that belong to cartels. Even those who said that they knew who the cartels were, they did not name the cartels. They did not have the courage. They did not speak to the potholes. They did not speak to the garbage. They did not speak to the insecurity in the city. They did not speak to the poor street lighting. They did not speak to the abjectness of the healthcare system. When I was growing up in Nairobi, you went to a little dispensary in Jericho, Lumumba, and you got everything that you needed there. Only occasionally did you need to go to Selassie Avenue, and some people who had other complications could go to the casino place and such other places. Rarely did you need to go to Kenyatta National Hospital and the King George VI Hospital before that. They have not spoken to these things. They have spent a lot of time attacking one another. There are personality issues that they kept harping on. You ran away. You do not have the staying power. You are a cheat. You don't have university certificates. We can't trust you. So, put very simply, Nairobi will have to choose between a rock and a hard place because they have to go with one of the two. And perhaps Sakaja.
Right, well, we lost Dr. Barak there, but again, his points well articulated. NMS is going?
NMS, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, of course, you know, this is the second most important race after the presidency.
Yeah.
And so you can understand why there's a lot of interest in this. And as you aptly put it, that's why Nairobi then become important for everybody. Of course, let me start by saying that part of the integrity is staying on the topic. So when we are talking of Sakaja, you don't talk of the Ruto quoting Bible abilities. The integrity is to stay within the question.
You don't relate?
Prone to wonder.
Okay.
You probably, and then if you relate, you give the context.
Okay.
Because whether we cannot judge the hearts, and the judgment of hearts belong to God, but you know that DP attends church more than others. Whether he's there because he's genuine, but he shows up in churches. So when you want to talk about Bible misquoted, in the midst where you have a candidate talking of even other things that are far from the Bible, then you can see probably the biasness. But ideally, and I will answer your question, Kinuthia, the biggest issue is that sovereignty belongs to the people.
Sure.
They are allowed to be dumb and do dumb things in the ballot. They are allowed to make their mistake if they want to. And this constitution took its risk with the people and made them the sovereign. So there is no other power. There is no other way of being a leader except through the votes of these people that we think are not smart. And whether they are professor, whether they are Mama Mboga, we each have one vote. And therefore there is no escape route or shortcut. And therefore, whether the state comes in, the people who feel there is integrity, the beautiful ones are not yet born. You are a literature guru. In this country, is it the state capture that we are running from? But at the end of the day, the Kenyans will decide whom they want to be their president, and whosoever they want to be their governor of Nairobi and other counties. There is no other route to power and legitimacy except the vote of the people. It's an element of sovereignty. And so we cannot chip it in by this sensational thing of, oh, there's a lot of wash people now that are running. Arrest them. There is people who are not very nice people running. No, decampaign them in the ballot. Assume, give Kenyans the benefit of the doubt that they are smart enough that if you tell them Sakaja degree is not real, they will hear. But don't try capture the state. Right now, you are seeing in the newspaper there, the president within 2 weeks before he leave the office have appointed, I don't know, 150 people. What kind of mannerism is that?
And I mean, that's one of the things that we discuss. Perhaps we take a quick break and then we come back to that, as well as just understanding the presidency, you know, and the reign, the gubernatorial reign at the level of the county. Because like you had mentioned, Gade, you know, articulated on the matters that they had addressed together with Mike Sonko. Then questions, yes.
Sakaja said that it is now that somebody is trying to sign in for Nairobi a 9 years contract.
Right.
2 weeks to talk of integrity, surely 2 weeks to.
Okay. Well, after this short break.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business.
25 minutes of this first segment as we articulate matters, politics, and looking at the papers this morning. Without first of all going to the polls, let's speak of this that Daktari raises pretty much of a concern. Yes. But then again, Zach, you know, numerous times we've seen President Uhuru Kenyatta come up with some dockets that have been looked at as unconstitutional, the same position that you held at some point in time, the appointments that he has done and those ones that he has failed to do. Of course, if we were to look at the judges, the names that were presented by the Judicial Commission up until date, there's still that question. Some of them are actually campaigning on basis of this. They say once we get to power, then we'll have these people sent, so to speak. Uhuru names 142 to head boards of state corporations. Appointments are contained in the latest Kenya Gazette issue published on July. Last minute, so to speak, but still within his reign. Is there anything wrong with that?
I would say, first of all, before I say is there anything wrong, because the majority of people are waiting to hear yes or no. When I was in government, before I resigned to contest, we were contesting with empty offices that have not been filled yet, especially in the Barak Muruka Undo Beta Daktari, and him as a scholar would know that even university boards, university councils rather, some have been acting without chairmen. Others have, many of them actually have been acting without chancellors, universities. And it is a dangerous precedent where a university has no chancellor and the only person who can appoint a chancellor is the president. Because the president, before the constitution was changed, was a de facto chancellor of all universities. But then Kibaki delegated the role to more deserving, eminent Kenyans. That one spilled over to some of these parastatals. And I can tell you even now, there are still some boards within government that have not been filled. And executive decisions cannot be made by secretariats, can only be made by the boards, the parastatal boards. Like all the names he has put here, you can tell, for instance, this Professor Karuti Kanyinga is the chair of University's Funding Board of Trustees. This University Funding Board has been for a long time been without a chairman. And there's a very critical arm of universities funding, especially where research has been crying foul that there's no money coming from government. And government has said cannot guarantee money from the coffers. But this fund can outsource money from outside. He can tell you there's a lot of money in the air for universities' researches. But a body that can do it. Anyway, let me not talk about Kanyinga, but I'm saying it is important to realize that the president is not creating power bases to fill people. He's already appointing people in boards that have not been having people to do the job.
The question is why now?
Right.
Yeah.
And why now? Because
it's still within his...
Actually, I would say it's late. Yeah. And I'm happy that they were gazetted. We have been fighting. Mr. President, appoint people in these key dockets. Otherwise, we stalling activities. People are going to say, he also appointed ambassadors in a hurry. But remember our missions, the people serving as ambassadors have had their time up. Ambassador serves for maximum of 2 terms of 3 years each. So if you are appointed for 3 years as an ambassador, and then you are extended for 3 years, it would be illegal for president to continue you in that office. Okay. You know, so he has to appoint others, and missions are very sensitive. For those people who know the infrastructure of government, missions are very important. Your question is this: is he right? The answer is this: he is not just right, but he is responsibly right.
Okay. Well, and that there's going to be another president in a few. We are 27 days to the general election, and we understand that some of these appointments are made on certain timelines. Do you suppose the incoming president, or the president that then will have been elected, Dr. Barak, would come with other adjustments, or they would abide to this? And is there anything wrong with President Uhuru Kenyatta making such appointments? And Zach notably says that these dockets have stayed without representation for the longest of time. And I would want to imagine that President Uhuru Kenyatta was privy to this information. Why these late calls?
You know, we hold Zach Kinuthia as an up and coming, perhaps even up and going intellectual and leader in very high regard.
Thank you, Dr.
And we hope that he will allow us to continue holding him in the same regard by staying in the same groove where he has always been.
Thank you.
If President Kenyatta has had the past 4 or 5 years to appoint people to work with them, to work for him, and he has not done so, he has run his government for 4 or 5 years without these people, he is absolutely wrong. He has no moral authority to appoint people in the dying hours of his presidency and to burden the incoming president with those appointments. Government is just about cabinet. Government is about the whole rubric of these people who serve in different capacities as part of the larger government of the incumbent. And President Uhuru Kenyatta is in his lame duck moments. He should be satisfied that he had a government that was without certain very critical components, and that he's on his way out. He should not hamstring the next president by putting their people, who then the next president is lumbered with and is wondering, what do I do with these appointments? He should allow that person the opportunity to appoint his own government. We have seen in this country, for example, appointees from, say, the United States, where you have got the ambassador, and a new party comes to power in the United States. You will find that the ambassador who has been there, their season has ended, but the government of the United States allows a bit of a runoff time so that the new president will be able to make his or her own appointments. That's how it should be. Duncan Ojwang questions integrity in these kinds of appointments. Why now? Why this late? What are you preparing to do with these people once you are out of power? You are getting into public-private partnerships. Who are these private partners behind these appointments. Are you one of them? As a Kenyan of conscientious disposition, I do not fear to look the camera and ask Mr. President, are some of these people fronting for you? Because these things happen in this country. We should not be shy about these kinds of questions. If integrity becomes the issue that we must speak about, is appointing them so that they can serve in whose government, they can serve whose interests. It's absolutely wrong.
All right, and in these appointments, President Uhuru Kenyatta as well has done the same alongside his CS's Dr. Ojwang. We have seen the appointments also that have been made by the likes of Professor Magoha as well as Munya, the CS for Agriculture and all that. Should we really fault the president for the same, and perhaps just let it be and see how then these ones that have been appointed will take up the mantle? After all, delivery is what we seek to see. Implementation of some of the policies that are in this specific dockets is what we yearn for. And so if appointed in this last minute point, would it be okay if they get there and perform?
Yep, and then probably just to agree with the budding young scholar, as Senior puts it. But the issue is they are called midnight appointments. They are nuclear options. They are also the impulse to succeed yourself. The impulse to succeed yourself. If BBI is not going to give me that, if I'm not going to come back, this is how I'm going to succeed myself amid remotely. It is within that week that you sign everything and you take everything and you take the ports. You sign deals about our ports a month before you leave power with the Azimio side. You divide ports like a birthday cake. You sign up Kisumu, you sign up Mombasa, you sign up wherever. It might be legal, but it has no legitimacy. You see, legitimacy, law by itself, if you only live your morality by law, you'll be a bad person, because it means if today weed is legalized, you'll start smoking. So law is the lower limit of our morality. To follow law is a moral choice. And therefore, we talk of constitution without constitutionalism. These actions lack ungwana. This action is looting spree. This action is you sign for me this before you leave the state. It is like you are. It is desperate, and it is like life will not go on before. Is it sensing defeat? Is it realizing that your succession plan might not come by, and therefore you are rewarding people at midnight? At the end of the day, it is disingenuous, because they are rushed. Actually, court have said over and over how this appointment should follow the process, and there is some due process. You cannot simply say, I exercise my power, because you are exercising that power on behalf of the people. And therefore, though you find a legal cover there, and that is the mischief that Sakaja was talking about, that you are reading the constitution not to abide by it, to find how loopholes. And before that, if this fails, you have BBI coming. I don't know, how far the drafting of the second BBI has gone.
All right, well,
so that, you have so many measures about personalization of power.
Right.
That is what is called state capture. State capture means that you take that power and you are not serving it for the sake of the people. You are using it for your personal grandeur. If you are good to me, I reward you. If you are mean to me, I don't reward you. So imagine a case where the new government come and you have already established a board. You have given them ambassador. Now this ambassador is supposed to serve which government? The new government.
Right.
But are they able to work with that government? I mean, this even when you are taking your time describing how the names change from, I don't know, Kinuthia, the president's name. Nobody owns this country. You can't use a country like your piggy bank. You take a project, you put him in Azimio, you put yourself the chair of Azimio, you give them a running mate, you go and do all this midnight appointment, you sell the port, you use KRA and all this state institution to play your politics. If that does not work, you say I might not even hand over. All that talks about trying to take sovereignty of the people, and it is the people who will decide, right. As they say in the Luo, whether you ndick your capney, whether you go home screaming. Okay. And I anticipate, God forbid, a situation where, remember how Trump refused to transition? Mm-hmm. And even the butler in the White House had to tell him, I'm not serving you tea, I'm waiting for the new elected president. Mm. I hope that this desperation does not give us hard transition.
Well, our chronological flow of events.
The BBI too?
Yes, yeah. I hope he responds to that. Yes, the chronological flow of events, Zach, would probably get people questioning such appointments that are done, late night or the last minute. And also, we understand how we have seen, and across Africa, most of those ones that really do not want to exit power. And if they do, they will plant moles, or they will plant people, or they will leave, their loyalists behind, so that in the event something plays out, then they are privy to what is happening. There are instances where you've had during the Grand Coalition government that, one side was focused on taking developments home. The other was focused on planting people that are going to help them understand what is happening in the next government, so that they're able to clinch this. So when you see such a thing, and we understand that we have had talks of President Uhuru Kenyatta is too young to exit. We have had talks of this BBI that appeared as though it would be a way of just getting himself back into the system and all this. We understand the interest of, business and capturing power even in future that would be within the concept of say President Uhuru Kenyatta's family, or so to speak. Don't you think it would get people worried to see him having these names into these specific dockets of this very last minute, as if to award them, as if to tell them I put you there, so you'll be telling me what happens when I am not around?
Who is a possible next president of Kenya? The question, the answer is that there are 4 people. Mm-hmm. Okay, the next president of Kenya is Wajakoya, or Mwaure, Raila Odinga, or William Ruto.
Right.
That's the next president of Kenya. Mm-hmm. Why is it that only one person is making noise about the way things are being run, and he's still in government? The answer is this: if all these appointments are made and offices filled, and Raila becomes president, is he not going to be disadvantaged by appointments that are already made and he cannot make his? The answer is he will be as disturbed as the others. But why is he not making fuss out of it? Why? Because he understood that the hot seat of power has implications on decisions made. The president has not made a new appointment. It is important to put it that way. Yeah. He has filled vacant positions. These positions that have been vacant have been delayed.
Vacant during his watch, and he was privy to this information.
They have fallen vacant.
Okay.
And he was aware. But you see, vetting also has to go through. Vetting of this position to fill has to go through. Board appointments, because majority of them are state corporations, have a lifeline of 3 years. A board chairman and a board member serves for 3 years, subject to reappointment for 3 more years. Just as I said about ambassadors, all these boards were appointed in 2015, and therefore they fell vacant in 2021. Then 2021, last year, some were reappointed. Others have left offices to go and contest. Others have naturally died. Others have left offices for their own reason. The process of refilling board position is left to the appointing authority to do it. And the law does not prescribe unto when appointment cannot be made.
Right.
If the president was creating new positions, we could read malice. Now, those who, by their rights, also think that it is a midnight appointment, which is an attempt to hold on a straw, in their own right, they should not worry, because the next president has the power to reverse the decision. He of course now is a he because there's no woman running. The next president can decide that ambassadors are recalled, can decide that board chairmen are also recalled, can decide that board members are also recalled, so that appointments can be made to suit the interests they have. There's no cause for alarm. Because you see, and I'm happy that Dr. is wishing me well in the academic journey. I hope I can work it as faithfully as he has done with the dean. The point of filling an office is not the same as creating a new office. This board, especially, I'm happy for him, for the universities. Universities were in mess. Let us be honest. Universities were in mess. They had no council chairman, they had no, chancellors, and they were running short of members to make decisions. And chairman, rather the council, although it's not the highest decision-making organ in the university, which is reserved for Senate, council go hand in hand in the running of the university, in decisions that are executive and in, linking the university with the outer world. My thinking of these appointments, and the less I talk about them, the better, is that they are done within the law. It is not, it is not ultra vires. And he can prove me wrong. They are done within the law. What we are questioning here, and he has put it right, is the intention, the motive, and this is what I'm answering. Of when the president can appoint somebody, it's within his prerogative.
All right, fair enough. You want to respond to Dr. Ojwang as to the progress of the BBI?
Oh yeah, the BBI. We would say the BBI, the first one, BBI was an attempt to correct ills that all of us agreed, the 9-point agenda. Of whether the next president will revive it, we do not know. But only one person who has said may decide to walk the journey is the handshake partner, Raila Odinga. So perhaps if Raila is a elected president, I am sure he may be able to take that journey. And if he will need me as a member of parliament for Kigumo, I will assist him because I was part of it, and I will work with him this journey faithfully. If other people takes over, maybe if Wajakoya also would want to walk that journey, because it doesn't need to be fighting Raila's ideologies. If Wajakoya takes over as the 5th president of Kenya, and say one thing I would want also to redo is BBI infrastructure or whatever, we'll do it. But whoever president comes in, even if that would be Ruto, who is totally opposed to BBI, there is some bone to chew in 2024. This bone is called delimitation of boundaries, which is a legal process. Now, this delimitation of boundaries was part of BBI. We will be watching to see what he will do, because to delimit boundaries, we must. Whether a Manyuria comes to a stop, or Mount Kenya swallows the mountain back, or the lake boils out of its habitat, we will delimit boundaries across the republic, from the coast to northeastern, to North Nyanza, to Mount Kenya, to eastern. Kenya will be right to do that. It is legal. There's no. It's not need. It's a legal process that is espoused in the law.
Okay, well, Dr. Barak, I hope that we all look forward to next week, where then we'll also have the running mate position. That is the debate for the running mates. And speaking of which, I would have wished to understand the difference between the operations of the presidency and the gubernatorial office at the level of the counties, because when Igada then says that they did a lot of things at some point in time, then you ask yourself, why is it that when it comes to the level of the presidency, there are others that will say that perhaps they really do not, they are incapacitated as deputies to do so much in the country, but that we'll leave it for another day. As we look forward to this, let it be known that also the polls that have been conducted are not just those ones that are of opinion polls, but generally also the stations or the media stations or the fraternity in their own special way have conducted polls as to this. And so as we look forward to it, your parting shots.
Make it good.
Yes.
Thank you, Linda. I was hoping that we would have the opportunity to spare the good poor Polly Gade, who comes across not as his own man, but as an assignment, as a project, and who keeps on eating his own words, contradicting himself. He says that he left because he did not want to keep on earning a salary for something that 5 things within a very short, compact period. And so it is not clear which of the two he wants to own, whether he was sitting there idling around, bumming around without anything useful to do, or whether he was achieving those things.
There goes the neighbor.
Is elected on the same ticket with the boss, and who is expected to receive instructions for duty from the boss. And Polycarp says he did not get that, but he also says that he did a lot of work. So I don't know where he sits. Next week we look forward to listening to the deputy presidential candidates. I hope that there can be less sneering, there can be less of personality assaults, and that we can listen to issues. They are very weighty issues for this country, and which the undecided voters, if they still are really, would like to make up their mind. Beyond that, I doubt very much that the debates are going to change anybody's mind. There are people whose minds are formed, and they approach these debates with the attitude of fan clubs.
Well, there you go. Duncan Ojwang.
The exercise of presidential power is not a license to auction. It's not an auctioneering exercise. Neither is this election. So I think the earlier parties distinguished the two, the better. It is a very weak place to be, to only say what I did is legal. You should be able to say what I did is legal and the right thing. But if you can only say it is legal and not the right thing, then it raises a lot of issue. I think we are going to an election where the sovereigns will speak. Their voices have been muscled, they have been attacked, they have been besmirched, but they will have their day. And indeed, voting is not a silly exercise. Voting is not a matter of I'm more intelligent, therefore let me circumvent and circumlocute what they are doing. The people will decide who their president is. And from where I sit, because right now I'm seated, I think this election will again, Kenyans will choose to vote their courage, what is in their interest, what is in their economic interest. The cost of living today is bad. As they say in some quarters, indeed freedom is coming.
All right, well, is freedom coming, Zach, as we close?
Not for him.
Not for him, not in his quarter. All
He's
right.
a candidate, so
for me, the only freedom I'm waiting for is where the voter will vote for me. That's the freedom I'm waiting for. And I'm pretty sure to say, these conjured slangs that are going to be used, I would ask the voter to be wary also, because all the sides, yes, and as he had said before, it is not bad to speak of things that flares up the good emotion in the voter that you wanted to seek. There's nothing wrong in it whatsoever, but we must also be careful of making a bed we cannot lie on, especially when it comes to manifesto promises. Some of the things we are saying will not be done across board. Who is going to harvest hyena's testicles? It is important also to all the sides, and I'm using Wajakoya because he is this elections what do they call amuser. You cannot just be angry when listening to this man. He's the only person that breaks the seriousness of all other candidates, and you can find laughter in him. So when I use him, I'm using him with all the respect that he's an easy candidate for. Not easy candidate to
for comic relief.
Comic relief, yes. Okay. I think that's a better word. Thank you, Daktari. He's a comic relief. The promises we are making, that upon assuming office in 90 days, Unga will be 100. It is wrong. It's not going to happen. That we are going to make petroleum cheaper. We will make petrol 100 and diesel 80. It is not going to be possible. Myself, as I promise, as I traverse my constituency, as I will shortly do after this show, I'm not over-promising. I'm actually under-promising so that I can over-deliver. You know, instead of over-promising and under-delivering. It is important to know that the people you saw in Sri Lanka saying enough is enough and storming the palace that is age-old is as a result of policies that the populist government of Rajapaksa or whatever made to the people in attempt to be popular. The president who wins this election must also contend with the burdens of winning. The burdens of winning. Because the one who will lose will graciously and gracefully go home, and even if they contest in the court, he will go home if the court decides to hold the status quo. But now comes in the mountain of hope and expectation vis-a-vis the general realities of economics today. Right. So I am just praying that as deputy president candidates come next week, I am wishing the very best. They are just 4. And one is odd one out because we'll be debating women. So I hope that he can find temperament also, you know, to discuss the ladies. It is not easy. As men, let me put it this way, I'm a man. It is not very easy to debate in the presence of women because a woman brings naturally a soft and lovable and amiable environment around you. And men are not treated that way. We are treated as aggressive.
You know, that is not necessarily true.
And especially when we think about the Iron Lady. Iron Lady.
This is in good faith. By the way, I'm saying that in good faith because you cannot bring
That's a
fist.
gender card on the opposite.
Isn't it? You cannot bring fist. You cannot bring aggression when you are debating a lady who is sober.
Okay.
And the 3, as I know them, because I know 2 actually so well, but the other one I'm not sure. But from what I have heard her say, she's not going to bring fist. Okay. But our other guy is a man of fist from his right from beginning. He has been a man of. Let me conclude by saying
shooting from the hip. Just wait for the debate.
Be allowed to get away with that.
I'm throwing my expectation, just as he has done and Daktari has done.
No, but you are not coaching.
Everybody of us are saying they are waiting for next week. This is what I am waiting for. Let me conclude. Let me conclude, Linda, because I will not speak again. Yeah, because there is no time, isn't it? We are leaving here. I'm just reminding my people of Kigumo. And because they are watching this morning, one of the ladies who lead the songs to welcome Waheshimiwa in the villages in a place called Mununga, Gaturumo, the lady called Elizabeth, has been watching us this morning. Her son is in Alliance. We have been speaking about how our young people will be enabled to have quality education wherever they may be, with the little resources that we have as a CDF. And some of these matters are serious matters at the local level. We may not talk about them nationally. So I continue to beseech them to be on the lookout. There are candidates who have decided now that last minute is a minute to blind people with money. Okay. And he mentioned something important.
As we close, there
are people who have been campaigning for a long time. Perhaps they have advantage. Now we must be wary of the people who are coming last minute, because they are coming with nothing but money and populism. That we are going to do this and this. Don't worry, I will do it. There is a lot of money. People should be wary that candidates coming with money as their only agenda will come, buy you, but immediately after that, they will coup their money and go to their hideouts where they have been before they came the last minute. So as we continue seeking this journey, support me from all the wards and install me as your leader in the forthcoming 28 days general election to be your representative in parliament.
It is just how strategic you are when it comes to the question of politics, but then the ultimate decision lies with you, the voter. And therefore, in these very days, 27 days to the general election, I hope we are all set. It's about ideology. We need to focus on that as opposed to tribe, as opposed. Yes, they always are there. I don't know why this morning. Is it? It is coming. All right, thank you so much, Zaki Nuthi, a member of parliament candidate of Kigumo constituency in Murang'a County, Dr. Barak Muluka, communication